Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks, depending whatever time frames you guys are based in. I am based in London, so good afternoon from myself. I hope all is going well. Before we do anything in relation to today's webinar, I need clearance from you guys if you guys can see my screen and if you guys can hear me loud and clear. So if both of them are okay, please give me a sound check and a screen check by saying yes. Amutha, great to see you as always over here. And of course, everyone else, thank you so much for answering that question. Now, the people who know me, they will know me from my voice, and the one who don't, who are joining us for the very first time, my name is Naeem Aslam. I work as a Chief Market Analyst for AvaTrade. I come with a wealth of 15 years of trading experience. During this time period, I have worked as a hedge fund trader for Bank of New York Mellon, as an equity trader with Bank of America, and now, of course, as a chief analyst for AvaTrade. In addition to that, also provide research for NASDAQ as well. So let's begin. Our master series today, and the topic in today's one is of course going to be Bitcoin. Now, of course, we're going to cover the fundamentals in relation to Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin, why it is so useful, and how one can use Bitcoin, and all the other basic questions. But something that I wanted to do today, which we haven't done before, is we wanted to create a relationship of Bitcoin with the Federal Reserve, and especially with respect to today's meeting. Now, can anyone in this particular room can answer me why today is a very, very important day? What is happening today? Just a disclaimer in front of you for taking note on that. Absolutely, Amutha, you're hitting the nail on the head by saying the interest rate decision from the Federal Reserve. Today is a very, very important Federal Reserve meeting, because it is today, for the first time since pandemic started, that the Federal Reserve will be actually increasing the interest rate. It is going to have a massive influence on the US dollar, on the US economy, on the US currency market, on the US fixed income market, and of course in cryptos as well. So we will unearth all of those particular factors in a moment. Before we do that, I've just ran the disclaimer in front of you before, and here are the contact details, which I'll recommend you guys to follow us on Twitter and on YouTube as well. And feel free to follow me on my own personal Twitter and social media channels as well, which is Naeem Aslam 23. I know many of you are already doing that. I am highly active and more than happy to answer your questions there. Now, AvaTrade has a very unique technology which I wanted to share with you, and it is called AvaProtect. Basically, AvaProtect is a revolutionary one-click risk management tool available on the AvaTrade web trader and AvaTrade Go app. With AvaProtect, you can purchase protection against loss for a defined period after opening your position. If the protection ends and you have an open position that is losing, AvaTrade will reimburse the loss directly into the trading accounts. The only cost is, of course, the AvaProtect fee itself. Now, here is the agenda, and then something that we are going to add in this particular agenda right now in front of you guys is actually going to be the FOMC. So let's create that over here, which is FOMC and the big event. Shall we say the big event? FOMC. I was going to add that before, but then I thought, okay, no, leave it. We won't have a time. But then I said, okay, you know what? We are actually going to cover that point today with you guys because it is an important. Now, for those of you who have been with us for such a long time, and then you've always kind of paying attention to what I am saying, what I am doing, because we do produce a lot of analysis on our YouTube channel on AvaTrade. And if you have been following us, you will see that what is our stance in relation to Bitcoin. Now, of course, if you have seen the recordings or attended any of these webinars before, you will know the answer of the first question. So for those of you who understand and who know the answer of the first question, please tell me, which is, what is Bitcoin? How do you define Bitcoin? So come on, let's get those fingers running and start tickering away, typing away your answers over here. There you go. I got one answer. I'm not going to name the person yet. I want everyone else in the room also start giving me the answers as well. Because remember, by you guys writing, and I say it all the time, by you guys writing and giving the answer, it only makes the definition of that particular currency or for that particular question or whatever you want to put it more it makes that more positive in your mind in a way. It embodies that in your mind in a way, because now you know what exactly is that. So that's why. Okay, so we have number of different answers. Of course, the award goes to Amutha. I got the answer from Amutha as number one. So Amutha said is digital currency. Great. And then the next answer is talking about the currency of the future. Excellent. I mean, I have no doubt that it is the currency of the future, because future holds with Bitcoin and not with fiat currencies for sure, especially the fact that what is going on with the war in Russia and everything else. I think future belongs to CBDC and digital currencies, not to the fiat currencies anymore. And you know what? We are lucky to have this transformation taking place in our lifetime than anything else, because we have the opportunity to take part in this new revolution, to see that revolution taking place in our own lifetime. So yes, Bitcoin is the ultimate answer to the fiat currencies. It was blocked by the US government, by the US authorities, who said that this is nothing but just a shady, or people like Warren Buffett used to call it rat's poison, and EU lawmakers used to make fun of that, but the entire landscape has changed. Biden has signed an executive order to regulate cryptos, which very much confirms that yes, Bitcoin is completely accepted by the US authorities now. Before that, if you've seen any of our previous webinars, again, the recordings of these ones are available on our YouTube channel. We talked about the fact that BlackRock, long time ago, nearly about over 6 months now, they started to offer and started to invest in Bitcoin mining. So again, that kind of amplifies that particular aspect that yes, Bitcoin is here to stay, because if BlackRock is doing that, which is the biggest asset management company in the world, so, and that it is an advisor, chief advisor in terms of the financial crisis, in terms of the COVID crisis to the White House, then that means, of course, they know something more than we don't know. And followed by that, what happened was that we saw that, okay, the US kind of signing that off, US saying that, look, Bitcoin is actually okay, so we're going to regulate the entire space, and we are accepting Bitcoin as a currency. So now it is absolutely legal in the United States to trade Bitcoin with the regulated entities. And only recently, this week, actually last week, we also heard from the EU regulators as well, who came out, and then they also said the same thing, that they voted against banning the proof of stake system, which represents Bitcoin, the proof of work system. So obviously, that was them saying that, okay, look, we are wrong. All along, Bitcoin is here to stay, and Bitcoin is the currency for the future. But they're not saying that, okay, we are going to start buying it or we're going to do that, but they just saying, okay, look, if people wanted to buy it, they can certainly do that. Now, what is moving Bitcoin price? What do you guys think moves Bitcoin price? again, it's a question for those who have actually attended the webinars before, so they should have that in on top of their fingers. So come on, let's get going. I'm gonna give you a minute or two to get a few more. I'm getting some answers, some great answers. So everyone, please do participate and give us some answers on that. See what you guys think. I wanted to see, I wanted to hear, I wanted to understand that you guys are actually learning something out of this particular webinar every week that we are covering that. So tell me, what is moving the price in what is moving Bitcoin? What is moving Bitcoin price? So tell me that. Okay, so the answers are coming, and the answers are great answer. One of the great answer is, I'm not going to name the person now, but the person who has written it, they will know that it is supply and demand. So that is what they are saying. Supply and demand moves the price of Bitcoin. Just like anything else, Bitcoin exactly works on the same fundamentals. It works on supply and demand. But just like everything else, where supply is sort of, it's not controlled, or let's just say, like, for instance, in terms of the dollar, there is no supply. You just continue to print money, and it will continue to print. Just like euro, you can continue to print, it will continue to print over here as well. So in terms of a Bitcoin, that supply is capped at 21 million Bitcoins. So after that, there are no more Bitcoins. In terms of a demand, we are, of course, seeing a huge amount of demand among institutions, among family offices, among crypto enthusiasts, and everyone else pretty much is very much after Bitcoin. And now actually is a great opportunity to get into it, because Bitcoin, despite all this positive news, hasn't really actually moved that significantly, which is quite strange, because in terms of the fundamentals, they have improved a lot. But in terms of a Bitcoin, we haven't seen that movement at all, which is sort of worrying, but it is happening. Now, let's move on to the next important question, which is the big event, the FOMC. So the FOMC really represents the Federal Reserve's Interest Rate Decision Committee. They are going to announce their decision at 7 p.m. today, London time once again. And when the decision is going to come out, we are expecting them to increase the interest rate by 25 basis points, right? So what's going to happen? We are more likely to see a little bit rally in the dollar index. Okay, so this is your Dixie, or your dollar index, and this is why, just to let you know. And then as for the Bitcoin, we are expecting for that to go a little bit down. Why? The Federal Reserve is going to increase the interest rate because they wanted to control inflation, correct? Because inflation is the major target for the Federal Reserve. So they wanted to bring the inflation numbers down. They're going to use this particular factor, this particular method to bring it down. And so they're going to increase that interest rate, and then that should have Bitcoin sort of going to the downside. Does that make sense to you guys? Any questions on that? Okay. I'm glad to know that you guys are with me on that. So let's carry on and move a little bit further. Let me just delete all of this one over here. So when the decision is going to come out, once again, to summarize that, when the decision will come out, we will see the interest rate moving to the upside. And of course, that's going to have a positive signal on the dollar index for us. And then we will see probably Bitcoin moving slightly to the downside on the back of that. But if the Federal Reserve increases the interest rate by 50 basis points, because there's no guarantee that they will only increase the interest rate by 25 basis points, then that means this is going to go even further higher, and this is going to go even further lower from here onwards. So that is the relationship that we are very much focused on the back of the FOMC event, which is taking place later today at 7 p.m. This is the most important thing. Fed is trying to control inflation. Fed is going to increase the interest rate, and gold is going to be in focus, and Bitcoin is obviously going to be in focus. I cannot write with this particular mouse, that is for sure. But you know what I'm trying to say, so you have to focus on those ones. Now, is there a relationship between gold and Bitcoin? That is a very, very important question, because both of them are considered as safe haven assets. Now, more recently, during the Ukraine war that is still taking place, we have seen the gold price really sort of moving to the upside. But for Bitcoin price, we have not seen that safety coming, safety demand coming, because gold price started to move higher because equities or your stock market was going down. So people were looking at gold as a safe haven asset, which moved the prices to the upside. Now, of course, Bitcoin is also considered as a safe haven asset, but we didn't see this Bitcoin moving to the upside. In fact, we saw Bitcoin very much continued its journey to the downside and continued to move lower. So, excuse me, I think I am coming down with something again. So, does that kind of makes clear? And one other relationship between Bitcoin and gold is, of course, inflation. Both of them are considered as a hedge against inflation. When inflation goes up, gold price, which is a hedge against inflation, people buy it. This is gold. We know currently inflation is quite high. Now, Bitcoin also moves higher because it also has a positive relationship with Bitcoin. Now, of course, from the last 6 months or so, if we see that, or even over a year or so, if we see that where the inflation numbers were, where gold prices and Bitcoin prices were, yes, there is a positive sort of a relationship between the two. They do serve that definition really well in terms of a Bitcoin and gold. But in terms of a risk of asset, that relationship certainly isn't there, and that is worrisome for many. Now, where is Bitcoin heading? That is $1 million question, and probably the most important question that you kind of wanted to know, and defining the levels. And now that is exactly what we are going to do in the next part. So let's get rid of all the lines on this particular chart. And before we get into Bitcoin and all of that, because it is an FOMC day, so I just want to read out a breaking news. Ukraine, Zelensky, American ports should be closed to Russia. Okay, so he's pushing basically, this is again, Russia-related news, Ukraine-related news. What we're really trying to gauge over here is a risk of trade still on the table, or if the market is changing its direction. So Ukraine, Zelensky, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, he says American ports should be closed to Russia. So they're trying to put more pressure on the U.S. to do more in relation to the invasion that is taking place in Ukraine. So obviously, what they're trying to do is make U.S. to put more and more and more pressure on Russia to stop the invasion. But obviously, that hasn't been very fruitful at all, and that isn't really happening for the time being as well. So now, in terms of the gold price, what we're really looking at is, first of all, is this particular level, which is, again, sort of got violated slightly. So we're just going to adjust a little bit. So it's this area of your support to begin with, which is 1905 to 1928. This is your first area of support that we're looking at. This is your Bollinger Band. This is your Bollinger Band. This is your 20-day simple moving average, 50-day simple moving average, 100-day simple moving average, 200-day simple moving average. Prices have dropped, which we kind of discussed in our previous several different videos. We talked about that the prices are more likely to fall from here because the price was coming into the previous all-time high, and we talked about the prices are more likely to fall happen. We did discuss this as an area of support, which didn't really work. Now we are looking at this particular area, which it seems to be working now, but if the price doesn't stop over here, then we are looking at the next important area, which is 1867 to 1882 as your next area of support. And the third area of support is 1838 to 1821, which is where your 100 and 200 day simple moving averages are pretty much trading. Sorry, I was just reading a little bit more news in relation to Russia and Ukraine. The Ukraine President Zelensky invokes Pearl Harbor September 11 in asking US Congress to help fight Russia invasion. Okay, so again, it's just the same thing that we kind of discussed that. So today, when the FOMC meeting is really going to be coming in, we are likely to see very, very high volatility. So what we have done right now is we have indicated area support area number 1, support area number 2, and of course the support area number 3. So these are the 3 important areas that we have sort of highlighted ahead of time. Okay. Now let's go back to Bitcoin and then see exactly what is going on with Bitcoin price. Now let us go over here. This is your Bitcoin. So what we're looking at in terms of the Bitcoin price is that the price is absolutely in this downward trend since the price made its high over here of that nearly $69,000. And after that, the price has been trending lower. There has been 2 different occasions in terms of a Bitcoin price where we did see some sort of a buying pressure coming in, number 1, buying pressure coming in, number 2. So we have a double top formed right over here. But the price, what happened was, the price stopped near its 100-day simple moving average right over here. It failed to move above that, and when it happened at the time, it was a very clear answer to us that this breakout, which happened right over here, that the price kind of broke above the 50-day simple moving average here, isn't really strong enough to push the prices above this limit, right? Because after that, it was 200-day simple moving average. Now, the fact that the price kind of started to move lower from here straight away, after this breakout, it was clear that the price is likely to move to the downside. And between this area and this area altogether, what happened over the last number of days or so was the price just kind of failing to find any direction whatsoever. This is despite the fact that we have a plenty of good news in the market. In fact, if we look at it from this perspective, we have a sort of an ascent. This is the most weird triangle that are formed. So let me just use the proper lines to do that. So we have this descending sort of a triangle formed over here, right? So these triangles, generally speaking, they break in the direction of the trend, and the direction of the trend is very much to the downside. So what we are likely to see really from here is perhaps if the price continues to fail above that, and especially if the price kind of fails to stay above that 50-day simple moving average right over here today, then we are very much really likely to move to the downside. And we're breaking this ascending triangle to the downside. Now, the question, of course, is that how far this particular price momentum or this particular price move can really go from here. So let's measure that. So if we measure the distance between here approximately to here, and we project that pretty much the same way in the downward direction, it's pretty much the same. we are very much coming into this area of support. So let me bring those support lines back in over here. So it's really the descending triangle is telling us that it is this particular area right over here between 22,226 to 23,686 is quite an important area. This is very, very important. I want you guys to really understand that, is that if this ascending triangle, the one that we have, descending triangle, if the price fails to stay above the 50-day simple moving average and it fails to break above that, we are heading lower. Of course, we have this support area right over here as your first area of support, which is between 28,925 to 32,223. If it breaks, it comes over here, okay? And we could potentially see the price moving to the upside because we will have the double bottom formed, being the first bottom over here, the second bottom over here. But if it doesn't stop over here, this projection over here is more likely to push us to the downside, which is going to be very much in line over here. So price is more likely to come over here, and then from here onwards we could potentially see that momentum going into the market. Are you guys with me on that one, how we did that projection calculations? Yeah, okay, thank you. Good to know that. So once again, Bitcoin price, when we look at the Bitcoin price to kind of finalize everything, is today we have the FOMC meeting at 7 p.m. The interest rate is going to go up in the United States, pretty much given. What we are really looking at is for the prices to move high, for the prices to move higher. We want the price to break above the 50-day simple moving average and above this particular line. If these scenarios don't play, then we are looking for the price to come into this area of support as our support area number 1. This doesn't happen, we are looking at our support area number 2 as over here. After that, we are looking at our support area number 3. In terms of a resistance, you might be thinking, the name, why haven't you discussed the resistance or the profit targets? The profit targets, when it really comes to Bitcoin, I am so serious. I don't want it to change anything less than above 59 or 60,000, because if we begin to break above these particular lines, then really we should be able to break above the 200-day simple moving average, which is that 50,000 sort of a price level. And from there onwards, it is this particular level which is going to create a trouble for us, that 60,000 sort of a price level. After that, it is the all-time high. From there onwards, it's 100,000, my friends, and 100,000 is what we're really looking at. Can that happen this year? Of course it can happen in this year. It's just a matter of a time when the sentiment will change, and whenever that sentiment will change, which I can't predict, no one can predict, we will see that rally coming back into the market. All right, I hope this session was helpful to you guys. You guys have learned how to trade the FOMC on the back of this particular event, how to trade BTC on the back of the FOMC event. And of course, you guys had a much better understanding of the levels to watch and stuff like that. If you have any questions, now is the time for you guys to ask more. But if you haven't, then I really say good luck to you guys going into this meeting. And I will see you guys same time, same place next week. Thank you.